It's rated PG-13.
And somewhere in a movie theater in California in January of 2016, a young Logan Paul is going to his friends and saying, "Hey bros, I just got the most amazing idea ever. Let's go to the Suicide Forest and make a video out of it. Surely it won't fuck me up in any way, shape, or form or ruin my career or anything." I sincerely apologize for that. Welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. It's January 8th, 2016, plus January 15th, 2016, because we only have one movie for January 8th, but three for the 15th, so combine them into one episode. What the heck? So, let's go ahead and jump on into that film, and that is The Forest. The majority of the story is set in and around the Aokigahara Forest, a forest at the northwest base of Mount Fuji in Japan, known as the popular destination for suicide. You have a young woman named Sarah Price, played by Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones, an American woman who receives a phone call from the Japanese police telling her that they think her troubled twin sister, also played by her, is dead, as she was going into the forest. Despite the concerns of her fiancé Rob, she journeys to Japan and arrives at the hotel where her sister was staying. At the hotel, she meets a reporter named Aiden. They drink together and she tells him of her parents' death. In reality, her father killed her mother, then committed suicide. But she tells him that they were killed by a drunk driver. Interesting little parallel there. I mean, her sister saw the bodies, but she didn't look. Aiden invites her to go into the forest with him and a park guy, Michi, so she can look for her sister. So yeah, it's your typical stupid white people going into places that they shouldn't go into type of a film. But the thing about the movie is that there is an intriguing idea here. This whole place where this takes place in, it's a fascinating thing in general here. Like, it's interesting to see it. I would never go there in my entire life because of the freaking name. But, I mean, I think it's a movie where there is potential for some good ideas here. But unfortunately, like I said, it falls into predictable category, the predictable category of a stupid white person going into a place that she should never go into. And what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, it's a movie where it really takes an opportunity that could have been really interesting and doesn't really do a whole lot with it. I'll give Natalie Dormer credit. She is doing the best she can with this, playing this dual role. I thought she was actually one of the best things about the movie. And the film does have an atmospheric look to it. But the biggest problem with it is there really aren't a whole lot of scary things about it. I mean, there's nothing really to see that's scary except for a hanging body. I mean, yeah, one hanging body around is very intense, but surprisingly, a lot of dead bodies hanging around here is not really all that scary in this movie's case. I mean, that's not to say that it isn't, but it just really feels like they left so much on the table for what they could have done with a film like this, and it just never really lives up to what it really could have lived up to in the end. And it really is a disappointment, because there are a lot of things that they could have done with this concept overall, but there's a reason why it's in early January. It's a movie that it's a movie that will never do well outside of any other part of the year. So they put it out as in the first weekend of January, so it can make money back. And it did make its money back, although it was criticized by Slate magazine for being part of a January trend of underwhelming horror films. And the same guy who wrote this Slate review compared the practice to the Japanese myth of ubasuti, calling the film's release a cinematic abandonment, which, I mean, he is kind of right about that, but it doesn't say a lot of confidence when the only notable thing about this movie is the aforementioned Logan Paul video, which I guarantee you that he went out there after this movie came out. He probably didn't even know this thing even existed, knowing him, and you know, when you go in there and he's so shocked that there's so many dead bodies, and he's just kind of like, oh my god, I never realized there were so many dead bodies in the Suicide Forest. Like, dumbass, but I mean, what can you say, man? The Forest, yeah, it is what it is. So let's go ahead and move on to the next weekend, Martin Luther King Jr. weekend, with a couple of notable titles. None bigger than the first movie that we have here, the sequel to the breakout hit Ride Along. So, of course, that means Universal's got to destroy with a sequel, Ride Along 2.
My two servants. I'm not your servant.
Hey, you are what I say you are!
I cannot feel my face. Rated PG-13.
Let's be honest, we knew that this was going to be bad the second that they started using clips from Bad Boys. I mean, it's literally a lamer version of Bad Boys, even with Kevin Hart and Ice Cube, who were really good in the first movie, and yet they basically just did the same thing, except let's take it to the next level. Let's go to Miami. And that's literally the plot of the movie. It takes place a year after the first movie, where a quick trip to Miami goes bad with the wedding upcoming for Kevin Hart's character, Ice Cube. Ice Cube and Kevin Hart go to Miami to follow up on a lead connected to a drug ring case they've been trying to crack. And in Miami, they meet a no-BS homicide detective played by Olivia Munn, who lets them know that Miami is her turf. They also encounter AJ, played by Ken Jeong. So they're bringing in all these different people from other franchises into this, who's a shady, cocky computer hacker who reveals evidence that implicates a well-respected local businessman, the wealthy Antonio Pope. Pope harbors a vicious streak and rules South Florida's drug trade. If Ben and James can convince the authorities that Pope is a brutal crime boss, they'll stop his spree. If they fail, well, there may not be a wedding after all. I mean, they could probably still have the wedding, but okay. Like, see, that right there is part of the problem with this movie in general. It's that you knew it was going to be one of those lame comedy sequels to the point where they're literally saying in the movie, I can't believe we're doing this all over again. There's literally a scene where they're saying this, and it's just kind of like, you know, a comedy sequel is smart enough to know that you shouldn't say this type of stuff, because when you do that, we realize that you guys literally have nothing of value to bring to the table, except you're making a movie based off the first movie because it was so successful, and you're bringing in all these stars in here. I mentioned Ken Jeong, Olivia Munn, Benjamin Bratt is the bad guy in here. You're bringing in Glenn Powell, Nadine Velasquez, Tyrese Gibson. I mean, this movie was almost going to be called a Fast and Furious type sequel name with Ride Together with 2 in the title, because poor literacy is A-okay, like that type of thing. And I mean, what more do I gotta say about the movie, man? It's a movie that is just lazy. It takes a lot of the charm from the first movie out of it. It's another one of those here we go again sequels, and you could just tell they had no plans on making a sequel because they did not realize the first one was going to be as successful as it was. And, yeah. This is what the end result of it. But sadly, this was a big success, and for the longest time, we weren't. But not enough for Universal to say, let's make another one right away, because we hadn't had a sequel in 10 years. But don't worry, folks, because as of this past week I was recording this, April 13th, the day of this, they have announced that they are moving forward with a Ride Along 3, because why not? It's 2026. Who cares if nobody cares about these movies anymore? The name speaks for itself, baby. The money will come pouring in. God, I can't wait for this trend to end, because this is getting ridiculous, man. But anyway, that's a whole other thing altogether. But nevertheless, Ride Along 2, yeah, don't take the ride along this time around. This is pretty bad. So, with that said, let's get to easily the best movie of the week. And what a shocker, it actually came from Michael Bay, of all people. This is 13 Hours, The Secret Soldiers of Benghazi.
13 Hours, a Michael Bay film, rated R.
We love you too, John. We love you too. On the evening of the 11th anniversary of the September 11th attacks, a group of Islamic militants attacked the American diplomatic compound in a nearby CIA annex in Benghazi, Libya. CIA security contractors, military veterans who served with the Navy SEALs, Marine Force Recon, and Army Special Forces undertake a desperate defense of the American ambassador and his staff with the diplomatic compound. And let's be honest, Michael Bay is not one of the best directors out there. He's more missed than hit when it comes to these big explosion-filled summer blockbusters. But when he's away from Transformers or Bad Boys or Pearl Harbor, he surprisingly makes a lot of pretty good movies. I mean, The Island was really solid, Pain and Gain was really good, and I did enjoy this one too. It might be the weakest of his more minuscule budget movies, but nevertheless, it's certainly a much better movie than having to sit through Transformers Age of Extinction again. Or Transformers Last Night, for that matter. But the best aspect of this is the acting. Not only is John Krasinski really good here, you got James Badge Dale, Max Martini, Dominic Fumasa, David Denham, Pablo Schreiber, just to name a few of the cast members in this movie. And I think it's funny that Jim and Roy from The Office are in this movie together. I bet they had some wonderful conversations about their time on that. But the character, if they were the characters, of course. I don't think these two really hit each other real bad, obviously, but what sells, they're what sells the movie, and they are great in this. If a war film like this, you really need to have those characters you can relate to in a situation like this. What I really like about the movie is that the tension and the action is perfectly handled, and you definitely need those elements again, too, to make it worth watching, because, none of this movie felt fake, because the tension and the action actually felt pretty real, and the movie doesn't point fingers. It would have been so easy to pull a Fox News and just put the target on Hillary Clinton or President Obama, but I mean, Hillary Clinton isn't mentioned in the movie, Obama's mentioned in there, but it doesn't pull a Fox News and just aims the problem at the obvious targets. The film lets the story speak for itself. There are some problems with the movie, and one of them is the excessive runtime. Granted, like I said, it's nowhere near as bad as Transformers Age of Extinction was, where you're sitting there for over 3 hours and nothing is going on. It's a 2.5-hour movie, but they really could have edited it down where you could have made it into a nice 2-hour film. There are cliches spread throughout the film. You know, the Brotherhood of the Soldiers is still been there, done that. The heroics done in the movie are things that have been done over and over again. The worst cliche is that scene that's all over the trailers where one of the guys tells the other soldiers that, you know, you don't have to go in there, but we're the only ones that we're the only halt they have, and they all go along with that guy. Like, how many times have we seen that scene being done to death in other action movies of this type? We've seen it hundreds of times in the past, and it's always the same thing every time, and it just doesn't work. I kept expecting somebody, when he was telling that line, just like, you know, when everyone's just like, none of you have to go, and just like, oh, thank God, you know, I gotta get back home, we're about to have a kid and all that, and then the guy goes, well, we're the only ones who have, like, and then somebody just goes, and just like, fuck, man, I was ready to go home. It's just like, but yeah, you get the idea. 13 Hours is a mix of what works with Michael Bay and kind of the worst of Michael Bay too. The best aspects of it is that the cast is really good, the action is pretty solid. The two best aspects of the movie overall, if you want to see a good Michael Bay movie of recent memory, I would probably say watch The Island and Pain and Gain first, and then go to 13 Hours. But 13 Hours overall is a really good movie. I was actually really surprised at how much I enjoyed this film. So, what do you follow up the best movie of the entire week with? One of the worst movies, not only of the year, but one of the worst animated movies of all time. The infamous Norm of the North.
Out here in the wild, when you don't fit in, life can be a real bear, especially for Norm.
What good is a bear if he can't even hunt, huh?
Why didn't you take a picture? It'll last longer.
Trust me when I tell you, you're going to thank me for stopping right there, because it only gets worse and worse and worse after that. I don't think I need to tell you about this infamously bad movie, but Rob Schneider is Norm the Polar Bear, son of the King of the Arctic. In his youth, he develops the ability to speak to humans, a trait shared by his grandfather. And because of this, he is made an outcast from the other animals, only to be accepted by Socrates, a wise bird, and Elizabeth, a female polar bear who Norm is in love with, who you don't really see a whole lot of in the movie. In fact, the girlfriend barely does anything except show at the end that Norm fucks and he has a family, which, ew. Years later, Norm's grandfather has disappeared and human tourists are filling the Arctic. Socrates shows Norm and 3 Arctic lemmings a luxury condo that has been installed on the ice. Inside this condo is Vera, a representative for wealthy developer Mr. Green. Mr. Green being played by Ken Jeong and Vera being played by Heather Graham. After Norm saves Vera from an avalanche, Mr. Green tells her to find an actor to play a polar bear for their campaign. Socrates convinces Norm and the lemmings to stow away on a ship to New York City. Does that plot make any sense to you? I sure hope so. You know, ordinarily I'd probably stop and redo the review again, but it's Norm of the North. You can handle the phone for me talking about this movie, but anyway, back to this review of this abomination, because it is an abomination. Now to think about it, I lost my train of thought. I forgot what I was talking about from this movie, but really, the whole movie is just noise. It's noise, loud noise, noise from people that are annoying and obnoxious, noise from just the lamest attempts at trying to get comedy out of you. This movie is an abysmal abomination. I mean, that premise right there doesn't even tell you what actually happens in the movie, because once they get to New York, Norm suddenly becomes a global sensation because he dances around, and I wish I could show you in person what the dances are like in this movie, because when he does these dances, there is nothing that amazing about these dances whatsoever. These are the lamest dance moves I have ever seen in my entire life, and I could do it, but I obviously don't have a whole lot of room to move around here, plus I don't think my camera can really get that from a far distance from here, but why don't I just go ahead and show you for yourself.
To start it up and get in the groove.
He's not dancing! He literally looks like he's having a spasmodic attack. Hell, the little kicks dance that Elaine does on Seinfeld is more of a dance than whatever the hell this guy is doing. Like, and the fact that these people are so fucking stupid to buy into this. Like, you saw it right there. They're just like, wow, and then they just start dancing too. Like, it's like, what are you even doing? That's the biggest thing about this movie. What are you even doing? And just remember one thing here. Rob Schneider decided not to do any more Adam Sandler movies after starting with Grown Ups 2. And then he wasn't in Pixels, he wasn't in Blended. I don't think he was in Blended, but think about this. He would rather headline a movie like this than work with Adam Sandler. I mean, that's... And also keep in mind that his daughter, Ellie King, was showing where the real talent in that family was that year, because that was the year, it was around this time her song X's and O's came out, and he realized, wow, so that's where the talent went in that family. Like, I got nothing else for you, man. I mean, I know it's been like random gibberish all around, but that's what this movie is. Random gibberish. Loud noises, lame attempts at comedy, terrible animation, and Lionsgate desperately trying to create a family entertainment library that will stand the test of time, which apparently this did, because despite the bad reviews, it had a small budget, it made a lot of money because parents are fucking stupid, and they said, you know, we took you to see Alvin and the Chipmunks The Road Trip, and you wanted to see that, so we're going to drag you to this piece of garbage. It led to 3 direct-to-video sequels. So, yeah. The youth of America is completely fucked. So, bottom line, that's what I have to say, man. I literally got nothing else for you. Norm of the North, yeah, pretty fucking bad. One of the worst animated movies you will ever see in your entire life. Plain and simple. We are still in the month of bad movies being dumped out there. It is January, even though we are getting better. So that trend is going to continue into next week's movies. Next time on Time About the Movies, we'll take a look at 3 more movies that the studios clearly believed in and didn't look at them and realize that they were steaming piles of garbage. Robert De Niro and Zac Efron starring in the raunchy comedy Dirty Grandpa, which is definitely no bad grandpa, I'll tell you that. We have The Boy, which is yet another creepy doll movie, and maybe even lazier than the original Annabelle was. And, hey, we can still try to cash it on the Hunger Games and Harry Potter flyer. Here's another young adult book featuring Chloe Moretz starring in it, The Fifth Wave. So, we'll take a look at those 3 movies. That'll be tomorrow here on the channel, so be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.